Well, sustainability is maintaining the level of well-being in the current population and looking after the needs of the current population, but without sacrificing the needs of future generations, making sure that we don't use up all the important resources so that the future generations are starved of them. Uh, so it becomes a matter of intergenerational equity, making sure that there's an evenness of the availability of important essential resources across generations. One of the most important behavioral challenges is recognizing that creating a sustainable culture is a behavioral challenge. Most people don't regard it that way. They see all problems as solvable by some kind of machine. And this is during the entire Industrial Revolution. Technological machine-based solutions have been the ones that have increased our standard of living. But when it comes to sustainability, it's the very use of those machines that has come to be a problem. The application of machines and other technologies that draw fossil fuels and other non-renewable resources to increase our standard of living have created the problem of climate change by increasing the carbon content of the atmosphere. So the behavioral solutions have to involve this lessened resource use, changing to behaviors that can be sustained over time because they use fewer resources than the behaviors that are characteristic of our current industrial economy. A steady state economy is a concept that was originally proposed by Herman Daly, who's an ecological economist who's formerly worked for the World Bank. And so what it involves is evenness or maintaining our level of resources, inputs to our industrial economy at a steady level, at an even level across time that can be maintained over future generations. So it's very much a sustainable type of economy. Steady state economy, this evenness in inputs and outputs as waste products, can be contrasted with a growth economy, which is what we have now, where there's a constant rise, a constant increase over time in the resources we use, renewable and non-renewable resources. So if we live in a finite planet that has a fixed quantity of resources, and during the entire Industrial Revolution, and we're now 300 years into it, there's been an overall increase in resource use from year to year, from decade to decade. Well, this can't continue forever, and we reach the point now when fossil fuels have become a problem, when fresh water has become a problem. And so we really do need to stabilize our inputs, our resource inputs, at a level that can be maintained over time, and that's what a steady state economy does. People are overly reinforced by material reinforcers, as they are in our culture. Then what you have is a situation where you get continued overconsumption of those material reinforcers. Now, overconsumption in and of itself is not the problem. People are naturally reinforcement-seeking people. They will look out for opportunities. They'll be drawn to reinforcers that they enjoy. And so looking out for reinforcement and wishing to increase your richness and rate of reinforcement is itself not a problem. The problem is the type of reinforcers that have become important in Western cultures. They're have to do with material reinforcers. People are working hard to get as many material reinforcers as they can, but they're not developing the skills to get non-material reinforcers. So overconsumption shouldn't be regarded as a problem. It's the type of reinforcers that are being overconsumed that's the issue. The consequences of our current overconsumption are delayed, and that's one of the major problems in dealing with the problem. And they tend to be aversive consequences, harmful consequences, catastrophic consequences potentially. So in the future, there could be a lot of devastating impacts from global warming, but we're not sensitive to those consequences because they are delayed. They're well off in the future, and nobody knows for sure exactly when those consequences will occur.
Sustainability really ties in very well with the idea of self-control and looking down for the future, because that's what sustainability is all about. Not what's going to happen tomorrow, but what's going to happen to the next generation, to the next generation's generation. I mean, you have to consider that life goes on, and what you need to do is to make sure that the generations that follow you have a chance to lead happy and productive lives, and that their children have to too. So it all means that you have to talk not only about immediate things, but also long-range goals, and I think that's important from first grade on. You can put it in any subject.
Well, I think the opportunities are huge because it's a science of behavior. And so you're talking about sustainable behavior change on a societal level, and everybody engages in behavior. And so a way to look at behavior, under what conditions it occurs, why it occurs, what motivates people, what supports or sustains behavior, how you can change behavior in more beneficial ways. I think that the ability to apply that science to society's problems is huge.
To the extent that behaviorology becomes more taken for granted by larger portions of the population, I think we will see more contingencies functioning under added reinforcement, the positive kinds of contingencies that help people and produce behavior and maintain behavior, particularly along the lines because people can see what's in their interest, and they know that prosocial behaviors and cooperative behaviors and sustainable living behaviors are in their best interest and in their children's interest and in their grandchildren's interest. And I think the problem is they don't have the tools. And I think what behaviorology can do is provide those tools which help them then participate in those solutions to global problems.
We cannot go on like this. That, I think, is absolutely for certain. I'd like to think we could get there first and do these changes without relying on nature to kick back at us. But we have got to change the fundamental nature of society, and I think reinforcement has a lot to do with how we achieve that. Stop reinforcing maladaptive behavior, which we're doing, and start reinforcing socially adaptive behavior. Because we could all agree, I'm sure or any politician would agree, there are certain desirables, such as full employment, good health, lack of crime, etc. Whether they're Conservative, Labour, Lib Dem or what, they would agree that they're desirables. The difference comes, though, that they're not using the methods to attain them that fit with an understanding of behavioral science. In many ways, they're going quite the opposite direction.
We now have identified family interventions from the prenatal period through adolescence that have been shown to significantly improve the nurturance of families, such that prosocial behavior gets developed and aggressive social behavior, antisocial behavior gets prevented or remediated if it's already there. The same thing is true with schools. We've identified a number of school interventions that do the same thing. They make the environments richly reinforcing of prosocial behavior, they limit opportunities for getting into trouble, and they minimize coercion, conflict, harassment, bullying, and so on. So the first thing that society needs to do is to get these evidence-based interventions widely adopted, and so that every family that needs support gets it, and every school adopts these kinds of positive behavioral support activities. We have got to get the word out about this because most policymakers are not behavioral scientists and they're not aware of what's available. And so the first thing we need to do is make the information available about what is possible and the cost benefits of it, by the way.
Well, what I would really like to see, and I think the onus is on behavior analysts, but behavior analysts, I think we have a lot to offer. We have a lot of scientific knowledge about behavior change, and we also care passionately about the world and what's going on in it. So I think that behavior analysts need to kind of step outside of the box of the areas that they've been in a lot. There's been a lot of basic research, which we absolutely need and should continue. There's been a lot of work in schools, especially with special needs populations, but we need to step out of the box and work more in healthcare and work more in political arenas and work more at higher levels where we can influence both the knowledge and the thought and the actions of people that make policy and do those things. So I think that's one of the things I'd like to see, is I'd like to see behavior analysts kind of rise to the occasion and do more of that. And with that, I think will come greater understanding, acceptance, and use.